Hello and welcome to the long-awaited return of Straight Talking Sport. My name's Kieran Pitt, and joining me today is Grant Elliott.
Hello.
And John Winchester.
Hi there.
You might notice we're a team member short today, as Ryan Hodge has left the team to pursue other opportunities.
Good luck to him. We wish him all the best in his future endeavours.
Definitely. In today's podcast, we'll discuss the Capital One Cup semi-finals, the reaction, previews to the final, and was that the worst ever penalty shootout? We'll also be discussing the Twitter feud regarding Stan Collymore that's starting to develop, and we'll also be looking at the Australian Open semi-finals taking place over the next couple of days, and the England cricket team. Has this been the worst tour ever? So, we'll kick off with the Capital One semi-finals. Man United versus Sunderland last night. Was that the worst penalty shootout ever?
I think it's one of the worst. I mean, looking at the players on the pitch, there was no one there that you could say is, well, especially on Man United side, the penalty takers, there's no one who's a goal scorer who's going to take one. I think Hernandez got a bit of cramp late on, so he ended up not taking a penalty, and he's probably the only one that you thought might score. But Sunderland, they had a few goal scorers on, people like Stephen Fletcher, but even he missed, it was one of the worst, I think.
I think we've got to worry that Welbeck and Jones are two potential England penalty takers, and they skied it into the stands. So, it was pretty bad. It was pretty horrific watching or listening. But Johnson, he was also a potential England player that could be going. I just think we've got to prepare for if we do get into a penalty shootout in England. But for sure, it was one of the worst in living memory, I'd say.
In terms of the result itself, did you think Sunderland deserved to go through?
They didn't offer many clear-cut chances, but what they did do was they closed United down and defended really well for the whole game. 120 minutes of solid defending. De Gea with that mistake, he made a few mistakes when he first joined United, but sort of uncharacteristic of him if you're going on this season's form. But
it's just a drop of concentration, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, and it was a drop of concentration by Sunderland, allowing Man United to score, virtually after the restart. I mean, they could have avoided the whole penalty shootout situation.
I think Moyes was happy to go away with a 1-0 win as well. Like, they scored, they got to half-time, and then they sort of just sat back and let Sunderland onto them.
Yeah, but do you not think that when they scored, and it was 1-0 on the night, and it was 2-2 in aggregate, they got, they scored in the 37th minute, they got about 8 minutes before half-time. Do you not think they should have gone for a second goal, maybe kill the game off?
Yeah, definitely. They should have, because all it took was one mistake, and evidently that happened. Like, for the tables to turn again. They were only through after extra time, so I think they should have. Like, they've got the talent to go score two. Like, they showed it all of last year. They've shown it in games this year where they can go forward and get goals. Like, why they sit back and invite a team onto them when they're in, like, they've already shown that they can beat them. They beat them in the first leg. Sunderland beat them in the first leg, sorry.
Do you think Man United at the moment are relying a little bit too much on Adnan Januzaj?
I think they're relying too much on, Januzaj, and they're relying too much on when Rooney and Van Persie return. I mean, teams always have star players, and Rooney and Van Persie are probably Man United 2 star players, but you need a whole team of good players if you're going to want to win the league. And to be honest, they didn't sign anyone this summer. There's a bit of an ageing squad for some of them, and some of the midfield players haven't performed, it's well documented, and they haven't been the same. The fear factor at Old Trafford is just not there anymore.
I totally agree with that. Like, every interview now, or every comment about it seems to be like, oh yeah, when Rooney or Van Persie are back, like, we'll be back to winning ways or whatever.
It's almost like they're making up excuses.
Yeah, like, what if they're not back for 4 weeks? I know they're going to be, like, hopefully be back, like, soon. But if they're not back for 4 weeks, that's another 4 weeks where they'd be like, where are they? Like,
so will Juan Mata make the difference?
It's difficult because I don't know where they're going to play. I mean, United traditionally play 2 wingers. And, if you got... Mata likes to play behind the striker, and they're going to play Rooney and Van Persie up front. So it's sort of difficult to see where he's going to play.
Do you not think Man United maybe need to just change their ways to fit the modern game now?
Maybe. Possibly. I mean, you're seeing less and less of, like, out-and-out wingers. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo was a outright winger for Man United, but he's gone to Real Madrid and he scored a lot more goals playing up top for Real Madrid. So
I heard that like there's people that are saying like, oh yeah, you have Januzaj, Rooney, and Mata like behind Van Persie. That's going to be extremely narrow that their play then, and they won't probably have any wingers at all unless they bomb on with the fullbacks. Like, so they're going to adapt massively because you don't spend 37 million, I believe it is.
I think it's going to be 40.
Well, you don't spend that amount of money without playing their player where they want to play. Like, they're going to have to adapt, I'd say.
Exactly, but then what do you do with players like Januzaj, who's probably been Man United's best player this season? He's an out-and-out winger. He's not a central player. If they've got no width, I don't know where Januzaj is going to fit into it.
He has played behind the striker though. Like, he has played in an attacking free
if
sort of role.
But if Mata plays there, then where's Januzaj going to play?
Well,
this is the thing. Unless Moyes changes the formation, I'm not sure Mata's the right signing. He's a brilliant signing, but
is there a case that they are just trying to sign him to show their intentions in the transfer market and to try and get the fans back on side, possibly?
Bit of a quick fix sort of thing. I'm not sure. I don't think David Moyes is gonna. I think Man United will stick with him long term, but so I don't think quick fix is the option really.
Okay, we'll move on to Tuesday night's match. Man City beating West Ham 3-0, 9-0 on aggregate. Fairly comprehensive. Is there any chance Sunderland can beat Man City after their form at the moment?
Well, then they're 19th in the league at the moment, and I don't think they do it on a consistent basis. Having said that, they beat Chelsea in the quarterfinals. They beat Man U in the semi-finals, and they were obviously underdogs in both of those games. So they have every chance over 90 minutes. It's only a one-game shootout, so to speak. But City, they're going for the quadruple, and at the moment they look odds on to at least get the Capital One Cup, and whether they can go on and get more remains to be seen.
What about this kid called Lopez? He's a bit of an unknown, and kind of this game's kind of put him right in the
spotlight.
Sort of thing,
yeah.
Yeah, that's the phrase.
Yeah, he man the match, best player on the pitch probably, and that's saying something. You've got Aguero and Negredo on the pitch. But getting back to the whole thing about whether Sunderland can win, I think Sunderland need a bit of luck on the day. Maybe because they're in a cup final, they might attract a few players now, like in the window. Players might be able to get into a cup final, and they're going to want Man City to play as badly as they did against Wigan last year in the FA Cup final.
And obviously, if Sunderland win, there's Europe next season. So what to play for.
But they don't want a situation like Birmingham, though, where you win the cup and go down.
Wigan as well last year.
And Wigan as well.
Just going back to Marcos Lopez, before this season, Januzaj was relatively unknown, apart from maybe United fans that look into their youth system. I sure didn't know about him. But so he might be one of those players that in a couple of years' time is in a regular starting position. Starting 11.
It's difficult, Man City, though, isn't it? Because they always go out and buy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll go on loan.
Well known.
I'm sure he'll go on loan somewhere. But he's a bright talent. So
cool. Right, we'll move on. Stan Collymore received a lot of racist abuse this week on Twitter. Just want to see what your reaction to it is, and it's not the first time it's happened. And I was wondering, is there actually anything that can protect sports stars on social media?
I think social media websites need to do something. They need to bring in, I know they got policies and stuff, but I think they just need to sort of just stamp it out. They just need someone like an authorising body to actually just sit through all the comments. If they receive any complaints, if you receive because
I know Stan's reported obviously all of these, and he shifted the blame onto Twitter itself, but I'm of the opinion I'm not sure how much more they can go, because there's always going to be silly people out there who don't understand how much of an effect social media can have just because you're sat behind a keyboard.
Well, in this country, if you're in the street and make some of the comments that have been made on Twitter, you would probably be arrested. You'll probably be charged for abusive behaviour. But just because they may have a different name on Twitter, or they suddenly think that they can, make these comments, and
It's almost cowardly in a way.
it's illegal, especially in this country. I know it's a bit more relaxed in America, where Twitter are based, but that shouldn't change because people in the UK use it and people in other countries use it. So they should be more aware of the laws that come with each country that use it. So
I think Stan Collymore closed his account now as well.
I was going to say, do you not think it might just be safer if sports stars just did not get involved in this social media? I know a lot of people say, oh, it's so good for being interactive with these sports stars and celebrities and whatnot, but ultimately by putting themselves out there on the social sphere, they're opening themselves up to criticism and things like this.
I think that Stan, like, he's not going to be the person that can't deal with it, like, because he's had like banter and stuff before, and he can deal with like sort of comments that disagree with him, but that's going a step too far. But also, if say someone else got it, say there's a teenager who's not known by, not followed by like 500,000 people or however many Stans followed by, like, who's getting the same sort of abuse, like, how do they deal with it? Like, just because Stan's been standing up to it and TalkSport followed, and they're not reading any tweets or advertising Twitter on air now. So I think that's a good step, but something's got to be changed because it can't carry on like this, really.
If you're a sports star, you're entitled, like everybody else, the member of the public, to go on these sites. I mean, these vile people shouldn't just kick someone. They shouldn't not go on social sites because of these vile people who basically make them feel like crap with these terrible, abusive comments.
Okay. Good. The next topic is the Australian Open. First tennis major of the year. Murray was defeated by Roger Federer yesterday in 4 sets. An epic encounter for a quarterfinal. And Federer showed signs of his previous godlike performances, really. Do you think he's in with a decent chance of winning this year?
I think someone's forgot to tell Roger Federer to age. I mean, he played against Murray like he was 5 years younger. It was incredible.
He was very attacking. He was moving to the net all the time. To be fair, Murray, I thought, put in a very good performance considering it's his only
second
tournament since back surgery. Some of the shots that he was pulling out of the bag were incredible. So it's Federer versus Nadal in the semi-final. I know the Wawrinka and Berdych one is happening at the moment, so I'm not going to comment on that. But in terms of Federer and Nadal, who is Nadal going to be able to prove too much for Federer, do you think?
Nadal has always, like, in the last couple of years, he's always had a sort of upper hand on Federer. But if there's any chance for Federer to come back, it'll probably be this tournament. He's been playing out of his skin compared to previous years. So I believe that, well, whoever gets to the final is probably going to be well deserved because they're two fantastic players. So
my favourite, well, it's either going to be Nadal or Federer. I think whoever wins that semi-final will go on to win the whole thing.
Okay, so you're not doubting. Well, so you are doubting Wawrinka and Berdych's chances then, even though Wawrinka knocked out Djokovic only the other day in another epic encounter.
Yeah, but I think Federer, experienced head. If he gets through this, well, Nadal's experienced head as well.
Yeah.
I think when they get to the final, I don't think they'll be as phased as much. And Federer is.
He's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, you've always got like big scalps. I think it was Russell last year or the year before beat Nadal in Wimbledon in like the second round or something.
Yeah.
But then the third round he just got knocked out by someone that wasn't as big as Nadal. So I think you always, just because someone's knocked someone out, it doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win. Although it would put them in good stead to progress. And now he's in the semi-final. Thomas Berdych, I believe he's playing. Like, that could be Wawrinka's playing Thomas Berdych, so that's an easier opponent than Djokovic on paper. So they could progress. He could progress to the final, but it remains to be seen, really. But Federer and Nadal are probably two of the most on-form tennis players at the moment. So
cool. Last topic is the England cricket team on the verge of their equaling their worst ever losing run, set back in 1993 and 2001. Was this the worst English cricket tour ever?
I'd say after the summer where we won, is it 3-0?
Yep.
Yeah, 3-0. Yeah, it's absolute disappointment. And yeah, I mean, like we should have taken the game to Australia after that success, and we haven't, and we continue to just misfire, and like we haven't played as anywhere near the standard that we played in the summer. So
Do you think it's a case of England underperforming or Australia just being better than us?
Bit both, I'd say. I mean, before the last Ashes, we was actually predicted to whitewash Australia, and yet it was the other way around. We just looked like we didn't turn up to any of the matches.
I mean, after the way we played in the summer, like you could have thought that we could have whitewashed them, but obviously Australia, they came into their own, and we sort of faded out into the dust. And
I think in their own conditions, Australia have just been a formidable opponent.
I think a lot of the Australian players have improved from the summer.
Yeah,
I think that's
Mitchell
a
Johnson's looked one of the best bowlers in the world, although that might be because England can't seem to bat at the moment, and poor form from Cook and Root, and Peterson's not really been getting the big scores, has not helped at all. Do you think, are there any positives to get from this tour?
I don't think there is. I mean, I think you'd have to be a pretty optimistic person to draw out a few positives.
I'd say that the only positive is that we got humiliated, and now we can reform our team, I'd say.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was going to say. I mean, this tour's seen the experienced pros like Trott and Swan kind of depart from the team, and it's now looking a young, hopefully hungry team that will want to come back from this disappointment and put things right. There's still a lot of players like Bell, Pryor, Anderson. There's still experience in there, and I think Cook will need that to come back from this.
It's a bit like the England football team, and the England cricket team and football team are basically saying that at the moment, because you're trying to get rid of the old heads and bring in the new young players who's hopefully going to come on and be world beaters.
I know Cook said he's considering giving up the captaincy for ODIs. I'm not sure what either of you think about that decision, whether he should do it or not.
I'd say that you should definitely think about giving it up. Like, maybe not totally, maybe you could have like an understudy sort of thing, but it's a time for change, and I think that change should be across the board, really.
It's just difficult. I'm trying to think of a replacement who maybe could take his steps. I think that's the only thing that might convince him to stay on.
Yeah, Owen Morgan has been touted as the leading candidate, but I'm one of those that actually support Cook in his captaincy. I mean, he's still young, and I hope he's learned a couple of tricks of the trade almost from Michael Clarke, who is so much more attacking, so much more aggressive. It forces results, and Cook's definitely more of a reactive captain than proactive, which is similar to Strauss, really. So you can kind of see how Strauss has rubbed off on him. But now there are so many more captains in the mould of Clarke and like Dhoni, for example, that Cook needs to realise that that's how you win matches, and that's how they're going to get out of this run. Okay, I think that's everything. So thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of Straight Talking Sport. We'll hopefully become more regular now we're all back at university. And you can all follow us on Twitter. I am at the Kieran Pick. Grant, you are
at GDE93.
John, you are
at JohnWin51.
And you can probably still follow Ryan Hodge as well. His Twitter's probably on the video as well, because we haven't changed it yet. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.